We can go ahead and start as soon as we have quorum, which we have.
All right, you want me to open it up?
No, why don't we wait a minute or two, because the mayor is supposed to be joining us, and we still have Bill and Nancy Hawkins who might join us. I don't know if Robin usually tracks who's been back in touch with her.
Okay.
Well, you look nice and cozy there, Charlene.
Well, I'm getting cozy. I was getting a little chilled, so I just wrapped myself up in a nice fleece blanket.
Nice. So there, well, Jean, I sent the downtown business report to you.
Yes.
And I was going to stick my head into your parking commission just to talk with you a little bit about parking came up as an issue in that. And I don't know.
I read it and saw that. I don't know if everybody else has read it though.
Well, I just want you guys to know that, we're starting to share it around, and I wanted you to see that it was an issue we're going to have to take a look at this spring.
Well, I understand that people are working on changing the parking, but no one is talking to the parking commission.
Yes, there's been some discussion about it's just so preliminary, it's just very preliminary.
I know we spent a year talking about it, and it's just interesting that no one has ever asked us what we talked about.
So, who's the staff liaison to the parking commission? Is it
No
Danny?
one.
You have no one. I think that's one of the concerns that I have, is that you guys seem to be sort of hanging out there all on your own, even though it seems like that there should be some administrative support for your committee. Anyways, we'll stop talking about parking stuff since we're on redevelopment authority.
Okay.
This is Lindsay Rowe. The mayor just called me. She should be on in a minute.
Thanks, Linz.
You're welcome.
Are you still at the office?
I am still at the office.
Did Robin tell you the roads are miserable?
That's what I've heard. So
you should just stay there overnight. And
perfect.
She can walk down and spend the night at my house. I have an extra bedroom.
Oh, thanks, Jane.
Since I know you'll never do it, I can make all these offers.
That's the best way, right?
Yeah.
But Adam, you can go ahead and start. We can get the minutes taken care of, and I can tell you that I'm talking with the insurance agent to update our insurances.
All right. Well, let's call the meeting to order then. And would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes, the draft that was sent out?
I'll make the motion. Charlene.
Great. Second? Anyone?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Can we discuss them a little?
What's that?
I just need to note that there needs to be a spelling correction of Peg Behringer.
Thank you. All right, so we approve the minutes. That one minor correction. So MJ, I will pass it back over to you, even though we don't have everyone here yet. I don't know how many more people are going to be popping in, but it's almost 10 after, so we might as well get
Okay. Well, the mayor's here, so why don't you go ahead and launch into the next item?
Did everybody know that the only place to find it was on the calendar? The link.
The link?
I never received an email. I just had to call your office to find out how to get into the meeting.
And you weren't on the email that got sent out, is that what you're saying?
I did not see it. I have a notification of a meeting and it didn't have a link in it. And then I did not have an email that said, this is the link.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, you're very resourceful. That's where I always go. I
Yeah,
hop
right.
onto the calendar.
Didn't
Because
even
that way you
occur
have
to
to
me.
test it, and if it doesn't work there, then we're in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, well, it just didn't even occur to me. I went to your office instead. Fortunately, Lindsay answered the phone.
All right. So we're going to hop in and start talking about the First National Bank. Last month we had the report out. You know, I'm going to ask everybody to mute if you can, because I hear myself echoing, and it would be easier. And the idea was to think about, to receive the report in December from Peg Behringer, and then to give it some time and mull it over to figure out what steps we want to do next. Clearly, Mass Development, Christine Midori, indicated that Mass Development stands ready to continue working with us in terms of where we might go with this. But I think sort of the general consensus that at this time, the idea for it to become a cultural flex art space is probably not its strongest position. And so the question is, what do we do next? What I'd like to suggest is, out of that meeting, I guess we had a couple things that we needed to think about. First, I needed to follow up on the historic preservation restriction and see how restricted it was and whether or not there's any opportunity to seek any sort of relief from any aspect of it. And so I've been trying to reach Paul Holtz up at the Mass Historic Commission and haven't received a call back from him yet, but I am continuing to work on that. The other thing is we talked about needing to take care of some, I think, relatively minor roof repairs, and Maury and Schmidt are going to come over and take a look at it soon. They're going to come get the keys from my office and go take a look at it. And then we'll get a price on that. I don't think it's a very major expense. I think something just came, it's, as I was describing it to Maury and Schmidt from the report that we had, it's just like the roof drain has become loose and separated. So I don't think it'll be a big cost item, but I say that with a bit of hesitation, because you never know with construction, especially buildings like
A
this.
participant has joined the meeting.
And then, so to take care of those immediate things is sort of get a better handle on, you know, what we can do with it if we're not going to restore it as we had contemplated. Then I thought the next thing I should do is probably just touch base with the abutters and give them a heads up that the original thinking wasn't really going to advance at the moment, and just to make them aware of that. At the meeting back in December, the mayor did raise the prospect of, do we think about using it for municipal city offices? And then the next step after that is sort of working with Mass Development to figure out what we might do with the building. I think if you recall, she said most of the arts and culture spaces that come to be are driven by an arts organization that needs a piece of real estate. And she said, you know, the sense was that we were driving from the wrong end of the bus, that we had a piece of real estate that we were interested in making into a cultural venue. And I think we all know that, you know, with the uncertainties with the impact of COVID, that it was probably not the best time to be advancing this concept, especially if you take a look at how hard and how prolonged the impact has been, especially on the creative sector. So that's sort of my general introduction. And I think the idea is for us just to kick around and to see if anyone has any thoughts or any other input or reflections on the report that came out and where we might think about going with this.
Well, one of the things that, you know, we discussed at the last meeting was that they were going to let us know, Mass Development was going to let us know what type of funding there was out there to do whatever security.
Mhm.
I think that's we just go back to that being step one, I would think. And then I threw this out last time and throw it out again, but I think we ought to offer it to private investment as well, just to see if there's anyone out there. You know, that there's been a lot of people over the past 5 to 10 years who've actually showed a lot of interest in redeveloping a lot of the buildings, and not only in our town, but in Franklin County. See if there's any interest there. But securing it's number one. And especially after listening to that presentation that they gave us, I clearly took from that they had money to do that, but not necessarily to do much more. That's how I took it. Maybe other people took it differently.
You're talking about mass development, said they had money to do that, but
to secure the building, but not necessarily to do much more. That's how I took it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that we're kind of at another spot here where this building has been before, and we really need to see who else can get involved to give others opportunities to potentially do something with it. Who knows? That might be the best thing for us.
yeah, I would concur with that, Adam. I think offering it to private investment is a real viable way to go. I mean, it sounds a little nutty right now, but and I think it would take some creative thinking about precisely what groups we would want to go to. They'd have to be pretty risk oriented and willing to invest for the long haul, I think, and in something that could be a very cool project. So I don't know if we're talking, I wouldn't want to limit it just to local developers. So
I agree.
that's another thing to consider. You know, but we could go, I suspect there are some research could tell us who's doing the more innovative, interesting developments, and then we'll pick out the assets of the building, not the least of which is the location, and go from there. I don't know who that crazy woman was who called herself a mayor who thought it might be available for city offices, but
I don't want to discount any idea.
I don't either.
Cool idea.
God knows why I need the space, but
Well, it's being used for storage at the moment. We are doing some storage.
If that were to even be the case, I think I would like to make sure that that somebody else is putting the bill for that, and we could lease it.
Right. Agreed.
Well, should we put it on the market? Can the city put things on the market with realtors?
Well, the answer is it's the Redevelopment Authority's property.
Yeah, it's not ours.
So we have a little more flexibility on that.
Yeah.
We have property on the market right now up at the industrial park, a couple of little parcels, unbuildable parcels. I think that what Christine Midori for Mass Development was suggesting is that we put out a request for proposals, that we just put it out there and let people make some proposals on it and see what comes out of that process.
Right. I think that's a great idea. I just would love to be able to cast that net as wide as we possibly can to what the mayor was saying. I think that, outside of just our little hometown, there's probably a lot of creativity and in some cases money for some really neat people to take a space like that, and they won't have the same constraints that we've had.
Right. What is it in, what are its tax advantages? Is it in the, what do you call that?
The urban renewal district?
It is in the urban renewal, but the other district that we talk about all the time down here.
Oh, the overlay?
Overlay, yeah.
No.
Well, it's in.
No, that's not it.
We don't have an overlay in town. We have a National Historic Districts. It's in the opportunity zone.
Opportunity zone, that's what I was looking
So,
for. I
yep.
knew it was an O word.
Yes. So, yeah. So, and the reality is, I don't know if you recall, about 2 years ago, Greenfield and Montague were invited to participate in sort of a Massachusetts special academy around opportunity zone. So we actually have access to have our properties listed on a national register, on a national listing of properties in opportunity zones. So we put together something there, listed up there, and start
For
moving.
sure.
It would be fairly easy to get some fairly high profile exposure along that line.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I hadn't forgotten the event, but I'd forgotten that that was something that was available to us.
Or we're not on there right now. I would take it, right, MJ? That would be something that we would have an opportunity to join.
We have the opportunity to list properties in Greenfield up on that national site now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But quite honestly, until this board takes it off, makes a decision that they are not going to move forward with a local cultural flex space, arts cultural flex space. I didn't feel like we should be putting it out there. There have been some other ideas that people have been floating around about the property. But I felt like, it's the GRA's building, and I'm looking for direction from the GRA to start talking about other uses for it, since the cultural space doesn't seem feasible at this time.
Well, when you say that there's other ideas that are floating around out there, is there anyone who wants to come and approach us to explain those ideas to us? I mean, it would be, we're all ears at this point. We're looking for opportunities to save what we have, or honestly get rid of it. So
I think we have a couple local folks who are willing to help in a marketing effort. There's been some discussion about inviting Apple to take a look at it to see if they want to create an Apple store.
Yeah,
That's been
That'd be cool.
probably the most robust conversation that I've been
that'd
privy
be
to.
pretty neat.
yes. We have a revised letter to Apple. I just have been waiting for this meeting to see what you decided to do.
Well, what does the rest of the board think? I don't know who else is with us here. I don't know if Nancy and Bill were able to get in, but I thought those two presentations in the last meeting were pretty definitive. Yeah, I know I like to hold out hope like the rest of us all do, because I'd love to be able to come up with something super cool and creative and put our stamp on it and say, look what we did. This is awesome. But I feel like we've been doing this for a long time, not just us, but all the people who did it before us. And kind of feel like we've tried to reinvent the wheel here. And now what do we do? Let's do something different. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Shirley, we can't hear you.
Bill. Yeah, hey, Adam, it's Bill. I did get on, thank you.
Great.
So I agree with you in regards to kind of a definitive answer regarding the investment it would take to do what we wanted to do. I think, Adam, you brought it up as well. As I understand that we're going to open this up and cast a larger net. Have we ever looked at it, and I understand this would be, the worst case scenario, but actually having the building raised and actually doing something there in that space?
We've not explored that.
A discussion, but I don't think it's ever been a real, it's never been on the agenda.
I mean, I was just thinking as we go down, parallel roads here, that we may be able to have that discussion in the back on at least, and have a realistic cost of what something like that may cost. I understand we could open it up, cast a larger net and so forth, but it's kind of a worst case scenario, what would we be truly looking at if we decide to go that way?
Sure.
There's also been a little discussion about tearing down the building but leaving the facade, doing what they call a facadectomy, is the new architectural term.
I think they're all good ideas. I think the facade idea is a good idea. I think that Bill's idea, a lot of people have come to me and said, it's a beautiful building, but maybe it's an opportunity for us to just take the whole thing down. I have no idea if this is even an option, but what if that facade wasn't there? What if that building wasn't there? What if whatever space that space was used for, you actually could access it from Bank Row? If, again, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Who knows?
I can certainly tell you, I would not be happy to have yet another hole in the ground in town
I agree with you there.
that may not be filled ever again. And I'm suspicious of the facade idea. I would want to know way more about that. I would rather have somebody in hand who had an idea, who thought, well, I have a great idea, here it is, but I don't see the ability, like, to do it with this full building the way, in the condition it's in. So they use their money to tear it down. They use their money to tell us what it is they're going to do with it. But to just tear it down for the sake of tearing it down is not something that I think is a good idea.
And I second that. And I don't want to see another hole sitting in Greenfield either. It's sad. In that case, that goes back to square one. Let's make sure the building gets secured. Let's make sure it's watertight, and we can give it some time to see what we can do with it. But we do need to be proactive as to giving other people the opportunity to do something.
Can I make a, sorry, this is Robin here. Can I just make a quick point of information? I did go on a tour of the is it MGM, the casino complex in Springfield, and they did a couple of facade-ectomy buildings there. That were interesting use of the space. Of course, that's, a place with a lot of money behind it, but it is possible.
No, that's cool. I like the idea.
Well, don't we first need to say that we're not going to use it as a cultural center? Don't we need a motion to, as a committee, declare it's not going to be a commercial center? And then do an RFP and see what happens?
100%, Jean, you're right.
Okay, so I move that we are not going, the GRA is not going to present this as a new cultural center for Greenfield.
Do I see a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so my next motion would be, I would make a motion that we do an RFP offering it to the world to see what we get back.
Do I see a second?
Second, Charlene.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
So
especially,
as public as we can do it, right?
I like the world part.
Who is the second on that vote?
Charlene.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here with my marching orders is to follow up with the contractors to get the roof issue assessed and addressed, and then start to prepare an RFP.
Along with finding out what Mass Development was willing to give us for that, paying for that security. Securing, I should say.
Okay, I will follow up with Christine on that. It might be part of the new program that they just put out. They just put out a big one-stop for economic development activities. So I'll be at a seminar on that on Thursday.
Cool.
Okay. Any other concerns about?
I think Charlene is talking, but we can't hear her.
So, I don't know if someone's is muting me each time, but I keep unmuting myself. I apologize. Just had a question. First of all, can the GRA apply for a one-stop through the one-stop program or no? Because we're not the city.
Right, this is a, I don't know the answer to that, Charlene. They're doing a new application process.
Okay.
That they've rolled out last week, and we have the webinar on it this Thursday.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's a question. That's the first question. I would just like to say something. I know that there was some conversation at the last meeting around making this very broad in terms of RFPs. I don't disagree with that, but I also think that we need to put together an RFP that has some teeth in it. And it's going to take some time and it's going to take some research to look at what opportunities, be they financing, be they, I don't know where new markets are today. Are they available anymore? They be on that block. We know they were used. You know, what else is available as a package that we could put forward to a potential developer? No one's going to walk in and spend a ton of money in a town as small as this without incentives. We know that. So I think and that's why I had asked you, MJ, also to look at what Mass Historic is going to let us do with that building. Yeah. Those things need to be in the package. So what we put out is professional. It doesn't say that they're going to get approved. It just says, here's a basket filled with incentives that may work for you depending upon what you want to do. And I think we should look at housing incentives, and I think we should look at commercial business economic development incentives. And I'm not saying you weren't thinking about doing that, but I think that's really important. I love the idea. I just want to do, you know, a detailed offering. I guess that's the way I would put it.
And that's why Charlene is on here. I agree with everything.
And I just heard her volunteer to work with me on that project.
I'm going to tell you that, you know, I'm retired, and a lot of the stuff that I know may be different today. You know, I'm not saying I know what everything is, but I know to start asking the questions. And I talked to you about some of the developers I worked with in the past, and it was always the incentives that they were looking for. You know what I mean? Those incentives may, in fact, have changed significantly in how long have I been retired? Almost 5 years now, you know? But you know, I'm interested. I can try to help steer you, but I don't know anything off the top of my head anymore. Sad to say.
And they're complicated. I mean, you know, that's why when we have somebody who needs the economic stuff, we pull in the staff from the MLBD and Mass Development, because that's a complex environment out there. Figure it out what's available and how to use it and when to use it and when it's going to be available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, isn't that marvelous study of downtown Greenfield part of what we would offer with the RFP? I mean, it's not as if we have to start from nothing.
No, we've actually got a lot of good, and we've got some pretty, you know, detailed information about the building itself.
Yeah, I'm not so sure you can't offer a package incentive within an RFP. You know what's available. I think it's a perfectly good idea.
What I'll do is I'll touch base with Charlene or with Christine at Mass Development, see what resources they might have available to help secure the building, and then start moving forward with some technical assistance from them to start doing an RFP. And I'll work with Charlene on that to make sure we're getting it right. So she's taking a look.
Well, I think a good place to start is to ask Christine to put together a little meeting that includes some of the other folks at Mass Development who run other programs. And because, I mean, I was very impressed with her, but Mass Development is a large agency. There are a lot of programs. You know, get a little group of people together and on Zoom or WebEx, I guess, and talk about. That's a place to start. It's not the only place. It's certainly a good place to start.
Okay,
And, you know, remember, Mass Development has been involved in this. People like Sean Calnan, he's been involved with this project for more than 20 years, I think. And so they'll know what we're dealing with and be able to say, yes, go here, go there, go, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Sean's a big shot now down there, but we can get him to come to a meeting, I'm sure.
I think that's
all right. Great. So are we done with First National Bank?
I would say yes. Does everyone agree?
Yes.
Would you like to move on to the next agenda item?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, the I-91 Industrial Park expansion. I'm actually going to share my screen. You know that we had been looking at the 88 acres that belongs to the Mackins. That the sort of the big part of the site it's going to be pretty expensive to do restoration in order to put an industrial park layout on top of it. So we decided to take a look at a smaller section of the site. What we did is we carved off the northwest corner, and the engineers started to look at that. And I've been trying to meet with John Mackin. He took the plan and he staked it out, and he was concerned that what we're proposing here might get in the way of the continued operations of the sand and gravel and excavating operations over there. So what you can see here is it's a 22-acre parcel, so it's about a quarter of the site. It would be right off the end of the existing cul-de-sac. That red dotted line that you see, that is the width of the National Grid easement. There's a high-intensity electrical wire towers that run through there. So there's a pretty strict limitations about what can be done under that easement or within that easement. So our goal was to try to find a place where we could lay out a 200,000 square foot building, which is what our friends down at West Mass Development were suggesting was in high demand at the moment. And it would require some, parking and some relocation of the existing scales that they use for the sand and gravel operation. And the idea is that this would be phase one. And over time, as the Mackins continued to work the site, they would do restoration of the balance on the area that would be difficult to develop right now because of its geography. And with the thought that there'd be a long-term phasing where we would bring more industrial sites into use or develop more industrial sites as they continued to work the land. So we've been trying to set up a time for Eric and myself and the engineers to get out to the site with John Mackin. Actually, tomorrow, Eric and I are going to go out and talk with John about what his concerns about the site and see if there's anything. I guess the question is, in John's mind, he's not sure that there's a way that we can do what we'd like to do on the site and the continued operations of the sand and gravel operation. So I guess we want to meet with him, hear his concerns, get a better sense from him. Is it a smaller parcel that we need to be looking at and how that might impact how we're going to move forward? So the first thing we're going to do is, like I said, visit with John at the site tomorrow. Eric and I will be there, and then we'll be back and share that with the engineers, and then get the engineers out to the site to see if there's anything that we can move forward on here. Sort of been a stop and go with this.
Could I ask part of the property that you have outlined? Is John concerned about being too close to where they maybe want to continue? Is it the upper, what I'm calling upper left there, that straight line? You've got potential cell tower easement, etc. That side?
Yes, he's concerned that they're still doing some blasting operations up in that area where it says approximately 22 acre. It sounds like there might still be some blasting going on in that area. So,
yeah. Okay.
So, and with John, we've tried to get, he's a man of few words.
You think?
So we're trying to, we put out a plan, are trying to get a sense from him if he sees any possibility in it. And if he does, what his concerns are, and then to bring the engineers when we've got a better sense of what John's thinking in terms of how the sand and gravel operation could coexist with the industrial park expansion, if it can. So,
Wasn't there some conversation, maybe I dreamt it, about them at some point in the not so distant future winding down that operation?
well, John said that his brother's thinking about retiring someday, but there's been no time frame on that. I do know that when we started talking about this, they were concerned that any sort of public comment in the newspaper might give their employees cause to believe that they were going out of business, and they wanted to make sure that people knew that that was not their plan. And there's also been some discussion about perhaps there's an interested buyer for the sand and gravel operation. So we'll meet with John tomorrow, and I'll report back to you on where we're going to go. The engineers are Mass Development is working with us on this one also. They're willing to put more engineering time in to see if this is feasible. Clearly, they're interested in expanding the supply of industrial land, especially here in Western Mass. And so there's thin pickings for industrial land at the moment. So,
Well, put your snow boots on.
it's only going to be 2 to 4 inches.
3 to 6.
Ooh.
All right. Well, thank you, MJ.
Okay.
I don't have a paper copy of our agenda sitting in front of me. What's next on there?
Other business.
Other business? So it sounds like we're winding down then.
Yes.
So who else has other business that they'd like to bring up at this point?
I do.
All right.
No, I just want to share with you that it's the time of year for the insurance renewals, so I'm working on that.
Okay. That would be mostly just the bank, you mean?
For the bank and for our properties up in the industrial park.
Yeah, the unsold ones.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, well, is that gonna do it then for today? All right. I guess someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, can we talk about meeting dates for next month?
Sure.
It's been all over the map.
Sure.
I think we used to meet like this, the second Monday?
Were we doing that or the second Tuesday? I can't recall.
Well, the second Tuesday is the night that the Economic Development Committee meets for the city.
Oh, okay.
So if we could avoid that, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Well, any ideas? You tell us.
How about the third Tuesday of the month?
That would be fine with me, the 16th.
Right. Jean, does that get into the way of any of yours? Multitude of meetings? Jean? Did we lose her?
Sorry, I was muted. It does not get into my meetings. Thank you for asking.
Well,
All right.
we don't really know because the school committee seems to meet endlessly at the drop of a hat, but
Yeah, we seem to meet every week, don't we? No, every day.
I just want to let you know that if all goes well, I'll be away that week.
Well, you can meet away.
yeah.
You may not want
No,
to.
I can't. No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Sounds like it's too important.
It would be helpful to have just a sort of a standing routine meeting for us, and we can hold the meeting or we can reschedule it. But to be able to land something on my calendar is incredibly helpful.
Oh, that's how we always used to do it, so,
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine with me.
Okay, great.
All right, well, I guess that's it then. Does anyone else have anything?
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I guess a motion to adjourn by anyone?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Bye-bye.
A participant has